Hey, security peeps, it is Renee Small. I am here with another special edition of Breaking into Cybersecurity. And we're here with Mondays with Dr. Dan. Say hi to everyone, Dan.
Hi, everybody.
So, as you all know, I am Renee Small, super recruiter, helping leaders, bringing great talent and helping awesome talent work with wonderful leaders. And Dan and I have been I think this is episode 7, Dan.
Yep.
Can you believe that? So we've been here for 7 weeks answering your questions because Dan has worked with a ton of folks at the top of their game when it comes to performance and strategy. So, Dr. Dan, do you want to introduce yourself while we get started?
Yeah, Dr. Dan Schaefer, my company's Peak Performance Strategies. I'm a business and sports psychologist, but this is not therapy. I come up with some, as people say, street smart strategies to gain a competitive edge. About 80% of my clients are in business, about 20% are athletes, student athletes, professional athletes. And what I've done is I've blended some of the strategies that these folks use to get an edge into business. So it's helping to, I tell people what I do is I sell mistakes, that it's a lot less expensive to buy a mistake and not make it than it is to pay for a solution. And so what we look at is people who are in leadership roles. And I was fortunate to work with Hewlett Packard executives for 5 years before they merged with Compaq, looking at the challenges that these executives had, whether they ever verbalized them to anyone or not. I found that when we were one-on-one, they would verbalize stuff that they couldn't verbalize anywhere else. But a lot of it had to do with strategies. And so it's finding out what'll work. And so our basic question is, what do you need to have happen right now that's not happening? And I'll do the very best I can either on this program, if you send in a question, or if you want to contact me directly, you can do it by text or email. You get that later. And away we go. I wrote a book called Click, The Competitive Edge, for helping people get a competitive edge in business, sports, and entertainment. And away we go. Because this is basically, think about just, except when you're asking questions, just imagine there's only 2 of us in the room, 3 of us, you, me, and Renee. But she's going to get the question and relay it. But that's it. Because confidentiality, particularly with the issues we're dealing with today, are paramount. Most of the people that I deal with, it's on private email addresses at home and cell phones. It's not into their office, not onto a server where somebody else could read your questions or your concerns or the strategies that we're putting together. So before we begin, it's a good idea to know what the parameters are here.
So, Dan, we don't have any questions yet. So, I know you've spoken with a number of folks over the weeks. Every week you have tons of clients. What are some of the things that are not happening for people right now? If you want to answer some of the folks that, we've been talking to. I know you've been talking to a lot of people in transition. I've been talking to a lot of people in transition. What do they need to have happen right now?
Well, people are looking at, they're in a fog of what's going on here. It's a very disruptive environment. It's like being in the middle of a storm. And what do you need to do first? What strategies do I need to do? And because cybersecurity people are constantly competing with people who are trying to get into their companies. So it's a constant competition. It's like a football game with no timeouts. And the opposition has a tremendous, defensive line. So it's how do you operate? And that's what their concern is. So what I'm finding is the traditional approaches don't seem to be working as well as ones that might defy conventional wisdom. Every single one of my clients today is in 2025 working backwards. I only work backwards. Where do you want to be? You imagine, dream 2025. And then we work backwards. We look backwards from there for anything that could possibly disrupt that. Now, I mentioned to you before, and Renee knows for years, we have an assessment that we use. It's 30 minutes online, and we spend an hour and a half together. And people people find out very quickly everything they can do to screw up. It's just that simple. So knowing that ahead of time and knowing how that is going to blend into a job search, who you're going to talk to, so there's a strategy. So one of the things that we've talked about is what do I do next? And so people will need help getting out to 2025, imagining it, and then work backwards, because there's an invisible, and what's interesting about that whole concept is it makes perfect use of your subconscious mind.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody who's played a sport or competed has worked on a level of unconscious competence where they did things automatically without even thinking about it. And oftentimes they scratch their heads and say, how did I decide to do that? Well, that's the kind of thing that happens with your subconscious mind.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you put your dream into your subconscious mind must act out every thought, image, or idea that you put into it. And it will do that relentlessly, unless you get in its way. My role is to help you not get in its way, and to help you to develop what that 2025 plan is going to look like.
Yeah.
And
we have a couple of.
And one other, people can take this whole system and flip it right over and use it themselves personally, with clients, with client attraction, with sales, marketing strategy, and with personal strategies to get where you want to go.
Good points, Dan. So Chris Kirk says communication is lacking. We always WESK, W-E-S-K. Who else should know? That's one of the questions.
What is W-E-S-K?
And then, or one of the comments. W for who else should know.
About what?
Who else should
about
know?
Communication? I find that.
Well, this is a comment that
Go ahead.
He's making a comment. So Gerald Karakari says, what if your customer base is not tech savvy?
Then you really have to strategically plan what you're going to say to them to get your message across, because then you're not dealing on an emotional level. You're dealing on there's so much stuff gets in the way. I mean, Renee knows if you ever look at Not Tech Savvy magazine, you'll find my picture on the cover. But the point is that, but it's a great question, because people tend not to prepare to compete. You really need to prepare to compete. So I have a profile that I use. When you're talking to somebody, single, married, divorced, separated, kids, gay, straight, how do they communicate? What do they need to know? And what's going to make them uncomfortable? If you want to put somebody to sleep and you're tech savvy, start talking tech stuff and they are gone. Watch their eyes glaze over. The interesting thing about competitive edge communication, and anybody that wants to text me communication strategies, I'll text it back to you. I'll email back to you that it's a, you have to structure what you're going to say based on the person you're talking to. So it's not their job to understand you. It's your job to make yourself understandable to them. A lot of it has nothing to do with technology. Some of it has to do with emotional. I mean, I've spoken to somebody last week who's in a situation, they're in a job transition. They're trying to, they're interviewing with people. And I said to them, you are at the top of your game. Are they interviewing you for the job, or are you interviewing them? He said, well, no, they're interviewing me. I said, no, you should be interviewing them. You have to decide, do these people have created the environment where I can work to my best and operate at my best? And, one of the biggest things that's going on today with COVID and even in job changes is worry. I look a lot with people at what distracts them. So you're going to be surprised to notice, even when you get off this call, you're going to be a lot more aware. You'll be surprised to notice how much aware you are of things that distract you. Then the question is, what do you do with them and how do you get them out of the way? But one of the biggest distractions today is worry. So I have a solution for worry. You pick a time a day, 5 to 5:15, where you do absolutely nothing but worry. So at 5 o'clock, you go in a corner and you worry for 15 minutes. But if you wake up in the morning and you start to worry, you go, no, 5 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 5 o'clock. Your subconscious mind will allow you to put the worry off till 5, as long as you show up at 5 to worry. But it's how people do this. It's the minute a football player crosses the white line, everything that's a distraction has to stay on the sidelines. Can't take it with them. Golf is the same thing. Golfers have to decide, what am I thinking about when I'm on a golf course that gets in my way, that distracts me? And the best description of distraction is, I have a client, if any of you are runners and you're familiar with the Badwater, it's 135 miles through Death Valley in the summer. And my runner said to me, she said, in the first 10 miles, she said, my support crew did something that could get me disqualified. She said, I was very angry. She says, and I carried anger with me for 125 miles. She said, it drained me. So what we decided is that she would take anything that would get her angry, put it in the trunk of her car before she left for the run, and would just say, trunk, trunk, trunk. And she would go, but you have to go back to the trunk to open it up and see what's there. But it's identifying this stuff and moving it out of the way, because it is so contaminating, both for you and for your clients.
That's right, Dan. So Chris says he always asks, who else should know what I know or what I have discovered? So when he said WESK, W-E-S-K.
Okay.
That was the
who else should know? Well, I guess the question is that how much of what you're doing gives you the competitive edge? I mean, if you, for example, if anybody has not read the Blue Ocean Strategies, you probably really want to read the Blue Ocean Strategies, because
great book.
What that does is it lets you know that most people who are in cybersecurity are in a red ocean. Your objective is to get into the blue ocean where you have no competition. So I don't know what it would benefit you to let somebody know how you do what you do, or just that you'd make it happen. See, how it happens is, I use hypnosis to help people improve performance. I do it over the phone. I've done it with professional football players, people in almost any sport. I mean, my runner, who we spoke about before, is now a mixed martial arts cage fighter, and she's 56 years old. And her last fight, she won in 49 seconds. So we use power visualization over the phone for her to do that. The question is that she was in that ring for weeks before her opponent ever got out of bed. So the fact is you really need, one of it brings me back to another topic too, is you have to really know what you do well. When you know what you do well, then you have to decide, how much of my competitive edge strategies do I want to give away? Or do you just want to apply them? So that's a lesson. I mean, if it's going to benefit you by giving stuff away, then go for it. If it increases your relationships with people or your effectiveness, that's fine. But I think that who else knows is very individual. It's interesting. Every situation is different. There are no two us the same. I am certain, with as little as I know about cybersecurity, that there's very little that's the same, because people always come up with something new. So what do you do to make that happen? What do you know to get and keep your competitive edge? Because that's what this is about. I had somebody tell me just in the last couple of weeks that they don't like competition. The competition isn't really productive for society and all. It shouldn't be competing. I said, well, I wouldn't want to hire a cybersecurity person who wasn't competitive. Because you're competing all the time against people who are coming after you.
Yeah, for sure. Chris Kirk said, very good point. And Eric Aldisher is here. Alstader.
Okay.
Eric. I'm pronouncing his last name wrong. I know it.
Alsher.
Yes, he's here. He said, "Hey guys."
Hi.
So so yeah, Dan, I mean, you touched on a ton of different things. 2025 is one I always like to go to. Your hypnosis strategy is another one. I'm thinking about the conversations that we've had, both of us this week, in terms of people who are in transition or just dealing with, being where they are right now. I think a lot of people are in transition right now, just overall, even if they're not leaving one job and going to another, just being in on lockdown or in this time of COVID-19 and transitioning just as a whole, and wondering what some of the stresses are, what was changed in terms of stresses, and what we can do to help them with that.
Well, what we could do is on one of our earliest calls, we did a stress management strategy that works very effectively with just putting a thumb and index finger together. And I can take you through that. It's very simple, but people want to be able to control their mind game. And somebody who texts me or checks my website out, there's stuff on there about mind game strategies. But at the end of the day, I'll come back to one of my hockey goaltenders. I said to him, "What's it like when you perform at your best?" He said, "When I'm at my best," he said, "I don't hear any crowds. The noise disappears. The puck becomes the size of a dinner plate, and the game moves very slowly. Anytime one of those three things change, I know I'm losing my focus and concentration because I need to stay right on my target." So I said, "What do you do?" He said, "Well, I hope that it will come back." I said, "Well, Renee and I laugh about this all the time. Hope is not a strategy." So I gave him a couple of strategies to bring himself right back into the game again. And you can try it now. How you talk to yourself can either be positive or negative. If you have a negative tape running over and over and over and over again in your head, the question is, how long do you want to listen to it? You want to make it stop instantly? Push your tongue up onto the roof of your mouth right now. When your tongue is on the roof of your mouth, you can't think of anything. And so anytime you want to stop that negative tape, you just have to say, how long do I want it to go on? Push my tongue up the roof of my mouth and it stops. But there's another way to do this too, is I've had people who say, I'm going into a high stress situation. The closer and closer and closer I get to that, I want to be relaxed, but I'm not. Well, you can be surprised to notice that the closer and closer you get to a high stress situation, it becomes very confusing when you start to become more relaxed and more in control. And so one of the things we do is I'll show you how to do that. And it's very, very quick. Just take a deep breath and close your eyes. Now think about a picture number 5. As that 5 changes into a 4, you have the choice of double or triple the relaxation. As the 4 changes into a 3, double or triple it again. Let the 3 go into a 2, double or triple it again. Let the 2 go into a 1, double or triple it again. Let that 1 float off into the distance. And imagine that you're standing in front of an elevator. Push the button, the elevator door opens. You step in and you sit down. You push number 1. And when the door closes, the big number 10 appears on the door. And as these numbers start to decrease, you're going to surprise and notice how your body starts to relax. Now, I don't know whether it's going to start from the top of your head or down to the soles of your feet or the opposite way. But what you can be absolutely certain of is that anytime you want to do this by yourself, it'll work. So the door closes, you start to feel the car moving down. You see the numbers on the door change to a 9, and an 8, then a 7, then a 6, then a 5, then a 4, then a 3, then a 2, then a 1. And before the door opens, you're surprised to notice how much you know that you didn't know that you knew about your mind's ability to relax your body. You step out of the elevator, you're on a path toward the beach, you look down toward the beach, you're realizing that this path can be as long as you want it to be. But today it's a short path. So you can see the ocean coming up on the sand, you walk down, you step down in the sand, and you may even feel the sand on your feet when you step down into the sand. As you're walking across the beach, you look to your right and your left, you notice nobody's on the beach. It's completely calm, relaxed, safe. You get down to where the waves are hitting the sand, you look in the sand and you see a 5 scratched in the sand. And you look up the beach, you see a 4, a 3, a 2, and a 1. And as you're looking down at the number 5, a wave comes over, wipes the 5 away, and you realize that your relaxation is doubled again. This may be as relaxed as you've ever been under your own control, ever. But you know you can return to this. So you walk up to the 4, excited to see how much more relaxed you can become. Wave comes over, wipes the 4 away. Wave comes up and wipes the 3 away. Wave comes up and wipes the 2 away. You can certainly slow this down when you're doing it by yourself. Wave comes up and wipes the 1 away. And now you notice just how relaxed and comfortable you become in this very short period of time. So with all of those things firmly implanted in your subconscious mind, knowing how you can get back to the beach anytime you don't want to be where you are, you can get back to this beach. Just look at how quickly you got here. Turn around and start to walk back up the beach again to where you came down. Walk up a couple of steps onto the path, up the path back to the elevator. Step into the elevator, you sit down, you push number 10. The door closes and you start to feel the car moving up. And you feel energy coming back into your body. I don't know whether it will do it from the soles of your feet to the top of your head or the other way around. But one way or the other, it'll work. And how it works is not as important as that it does work. So you start up, the elevator starts moving up. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You can feel the car moving. 8, 9, 10. The door opens and you step out into a calm, clear, nice environment. Now, just open your eyes, put your thumb and index finger together, and notice what happens to the stress around your neck and your shoulders. The more you make believe your thumb and index finger are a dimmer switch, and you press on them, and you find yourself relaxing. Now, how does this work? I have a professional ice skater that does this before she goes out. I've had people go into major negotiations, or when they're stressed and they want to control their stress, they put their thumb and index finger together. I've had people say to me, I woke up in the middle of the night, I couldn't go back to sleep, put my thumb and index finger together, I went back to sleep. So I don't know how this is going to work for you. It's probably going to work for other people. You may reject this right now, but find yourself at some time putting your thumb and index finger together and go, oh my God, this really works. So, and anybody who wants any information on this, just send me a text or contact me, give me a quick call. I can send some stuff out to you, but there's so many situations where people have used their mind to control their body and their strategies and the way they operate. And it's just something that, since most people don't do this, just a simple fact that you decide to dip your foot in the water and to try this, you find it's working for you, and you don't have to tell anybody about it. So, any responses from anybody who just tried this? Want to type out? Any questions?
Yeah, any questions, folks? Feel free to type anything in the chat that you're interested in knowing more about. Dan and I have done these a ton of times. And I know Dan's worked with a lot of folks, especially in the security space, a number of executives. So if you have any questions around it, let us know.
And the other thing too is that, I found out something about questions. It was very interesting because I stopped asking people for questions. I did a program for 95 of the country's top hockey goaltenders, and it was a clinic, hour and a half clinic. So I finished the clinic, I said, any questions? Not one question out of 95 kids. And they weren't just kids. They were in junior hockey, semi-pro, and then some pros. And I was trying to figure out what I had done wrong. And at the end of the presentation, I had 40 kids lined up along the wall that said to me, we would never ask a question in front of people who are competing against. So I don't expect you to put questions in the chat or identify yourself. But you can do that with me. You can text me at 917-880-6758. Just reference Renee and say you have a question. If you want to set up a quick phone call, we can do that. And then you can certainly contact me on my website and send me some questions. And as you look through the videos on the website, other things may come up.
Sure. So Dan, I know last week you got a number of people reaching out. People, just so everyone knows, I shared Dan's info, and Dan's been helping some folks one-on-one. So if you are interested and you want Dan's number directly and his information, I will be happy to send that to you. So Dan, I know a couple more cybersecurity folks reached out and connected with you.
Right.
Yep.
So these are the big questions. The other questions are, that there are competitive edge strategies that people work with. I'm putting together a program now around 8 keys to a competitive edge, probably an eight segment program. It's going to cover the major things that people need to deal with that will absolutely set them aside from their competition, because that's what it's about. We're in an environment today where some people think competition is important, and other people look down on competition. I come back to what Bill Gates said. He said, any kid who was given a trophy for showing up has really been delusioned, because nobody gets a trophy for showing up today.
But you said the kids, when you talk to the kids knew it was a delusion.
Oh yeah. I've seen this with kids playing hockey. I mean, I have 12 grandchildren and 6 of them play hockey. So, you'd see them at a game where everybody said, we're not keeping score at this game. We're just going to play and there'll be no score. Well, you want to see how these kids reacted when they scored. They were keeping score. The parents weren't keeping score, but the kids were. So, but it's a different philosophy, and it works for some people, doesn't work for others. And I think that, but they're all winners and people who don't win. And I recommend to every one of my clients, I want you to win. I want you to get what you want to get. I want you to get what you want to have happen.
Right.
People say to me, well, how do you approach, I'm in a company and I want to move up. What do I need to do? I said, I need to know who's above you and what's in the way. So send me an organizational chart. Tell me who's there, what part of the company you want to be in, where do you want to be, and how do you want to get, what do you have to say to get there? People talk about content all the time. Well, what's the quality of the content? What does it really mean? What type of, I have insurance companies and salespeople I work with, they change the language that they use. And all of a sudden they're getting all kinds of business just by changing a couple of words in presentations.
Mm-hmm.
See, people today, on my website is a presentation I did about the cost of myths. It'd be very interesting for anybody who's interested in advancing their career to take a look at that, because what are the myths we're all living by? Salespeople are living by the 30-second elevator pitch, when in fact you only have 6 seconds to get somebody's attention. After that, they're gone.
Is it more so in this virtual world, in this space where we are right now, where there's so much competing online?
I would agree with you, but the key is to get somebody who wants to advance, wants to get a competitive edge, to pick up the phone and call me. It's interesting. Somebody said to me last week, I read The Secret. They said, have you ever read The Secret, The Law of Attraction? I said, absolutely. They said, oh, I loved it. I said, well, there's a secret behind the secret. They said, what's that? I said, the secret behind the secret is when you have attracted somebody to you, then you have to do something about it. Most people don't do anything. What do I do next? What's my next move? And so it's important to do that, and also find out what's in the way. People today are talking about, one of the myths is about features and benefits. Everybody tries to sell what they're doing based on the features and benefits of that. Unfortunately, features and benefits is not the way people make a decision. It's not the way the brain works. The brain works on three things: skepticism, reactance, and inertia. They got to be skeptical when you propose what you can do for them. The reactance is they don't want to be sold. And inertia is all the things they need to do to change what's happening. So you could be pitching your product to somebody, and a person in that company is you may be depending on them to sell your idea up. They know as much, and that's almost an impossible task, because you have no idea how much you might threaten somebody else. So it's to take a 1,000th view of a situation and find out what's going to work for me, where am I at, and how do I need to adjust myself for what's going to be there.
Yeah, good points.
And so it really talks about preparing to compete, looking at the situation you're going into.
Good point, Sam. So we're a little bit over the 30-minute mark, and I want to make sure that you got across everything that you need to today for this week, while we still have a couple minutes.
I think the most important thing is that somebody who really needs to answer this question, what do you need to have happen right now that's not happening? If they want to call me and talk to me about it, you have a really quick phone call, in 5 minutes if I can help you. But at the end of the day, I find so many people, Renee, who are alone at the top.
Mm-hmm.
They have nobody to bounce anything off of. They don't necessarily feel that the people around them have their best interests at heart. And it's always about what they want to have happen. So I'm open to any questions anybody has. I know I look forward to next week. We're going to do this again.
Yeah. Is next week Memorial Day? I think so.
I don't know. Whatever you want to do.
Together. It's all blended together.
The question is, where is everybody going? Yeah. Is anybody going away for Memorial Day?
Right here. Everybody will be right here.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Dan, again for sharing your wisdom with us. It's always a pleasure. Folks, Mondays with Dan, 11.
Thumb and index finger.
Thumb and index finger. Thumb and index finger. Mondays with Dan, 11-ish Eastern, 8-ish Pacific. He'll be back again next week, next Monday. If you have questions, Ben said it's hard to remember what day it is, let alone Memorial Day. Yeah, and I hear you. It all blends together. It's all blending together.
It really does. It really does.
All right, folks. So we will see you again next Monday. Bye, everybody.
Have a good week.
Thanks, Dan.